and this is the Business Bestie Podcast.
Okay, so today I'm beyond excited to welcome Olivia. She is a powerhouse entrepreneur who has successfully built multiple businesses from the ground up, from boutiques to Airbnbs and beyond. Olivia's expertise in social media and business growth has also helped countless entrepreneurs scale their brands, and we are so lucky to have you on today to share your insights with us.
Thank you.
Yes, of
Honored
course.
to be here. Yes, I cannot wait to pick your brain. So I know you've had your hand in multiple different types of businesses, but you started your entrepreneur journey with boutiques.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your boutique and what your biggest lesson learned or takeaway from that boutique was.
Yeah, so I started in 2019. I actually originally started as a women's boutique, and just online, I had planned to do it earlier in, not earlier in life, like a year prior to that. And life got in the way. I had some things happen in my family, and I was pregnant, and I was on my maternity leave, I'm gonna do this thing. I had purchased clothing a year prior to when I actually launched at a market that had just been sitting in my house. So I was I'm gonna do this thing, and I launched when I was on maternity leave, and then I went back to work, and I was just kind of running online, just having fun with it, learning, and people kept asking me if I would sell children's clothing, because I had a baby girl, and I loved dressing her. I feel like Instagram babies were becoming a thing, and there was these babies wearing big bows and cute outfits.
All the neutral, really pretty aesthetic.
Yes.
Baby
that was
clothing.
huge and so trendy back then, but we didn't have a lot of that in our area. And so I started looking into it, and in the beginning, I have never taken out any kind of a business loan. I've always just kind of funded it myself. And so back then it was oh, okay, baby clothing is actually so much more affordable for me to get more pieces and for me to really run with something. And I felt there were so many other women's boutiques, but there weren't a lot of children's boutiques. So I made a few purchases, and I kind of started going in that direction. At first, it was just going to be a part of the business. So my original boutique name was Jet Set Closet, and then I was we'll just call it Jet Set Babies. And then it really took off. It was something that a lot of people hadn't seen in our area. So I was doing pop-ups and all kinds of things. And so, that was kind of how that got started. I've been reflecting on this a lot lately now that I'm in year 6 of entrepreneurship, but I think one of the biggest things that I learned, or that I can recognize now from that business, is that back then it was just about survival. It was once I quit my job to go full-time with my business, there was no going back for me. I'm I cannot be an employee ever again. So I really was just kind of surviving and figuring everything out as I went, and that really served me back then, because it helped me to kind of catapult forward more quickly.
I commend you on that, because it is scary to go all in. I still have kind of a foot in and a foot out. And I have not taken the full dive yet. I still have a job outside of my business. So
well, okay, so I started in fall 2019. In 2020, January probably, I was starting to map out the rest of 2020 with doing pop-ups and stuff, and I was telling myself, okay, if I just do a pop-up twice a month for the entire year, I can do this. I can leave my full-time job, which wasn't anything crazy. I was just working in retail at the time. And so I quit my job on March 13th of 2020.
Then COVID.
And then literally all the retail stores quit, shut down.
Yeah.
I think they were having a meeting about it on my last day, and they shut down literally on Monday of the following week. So, and then all the pop-ups started to cancel too, so I just had to really hustle online, and I just did
because
that.
you would have been out of a job technically anyways, because you were working in retail and they were all closing. But then you have to think about the fact of well, I'm trying to open this boutique and I'm going to be selling mainly at pop-ups, but then pivoting and doing hustling online and social media, because people were definitely buying online.
They were, but we were also scared. A lot of people were really fearful about what their finances were going to look like. So that was a thing too. And I quickly realized within a month or so of doing that, I enjoyed hustling online, but I wanted to be in front of people. And so I realized that my business model was going to need to shift, and that's kind of when a brick and mortar started coming into the back of my mind. if we don't have pop-ups because we can't have events with more than 100 people for who knows how long at that point, like I still want to be in a place where I can get my products in front of people. And so a brick and mortar kind of came into the back of my mind.
Yeah, I love that.
That's very interesting. So fast forward to today, you're more doing the branding and the coaching and those kind of things. So you really have to know your target customer when you're a business owner. How do you get deeper than like demographics and the age and the sex and all that? How do you get deep and like really connect with that person?
So I think a really like underrated way to do this is just being authentically yourself and telling your story in your business. And that doesn't mean, like I always say, the person that you're meant to serve is more than likely who you were like a year ago or who you were in the past. That doesn't mean that like every single customer you ever have in your business is going to be like a mini version of you.
Yeah.
But I think that when we are face forward in our brand and we're really just telling our story and we're sharing our heart with people about why we're doing what we're doing, that is going to connect with the right people, and that's ultimately going to bring people into your business. So I think we can get really fixated on like, oh, what's my target, gender, age, all these things, and you totally can like have that profile of who you want your target customer to be, but I think at the end of the day, it's really just leaning into who you are and why you started the business in the first place and sharing that with people.
And then kind of letting that connection happen organically.
Totally,
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense, because I always say that people don't buy from businesses, they buy from people. They're buying from you.
Yeah.
Yes,
That makes
totally.
sense.
What do you feel like, in general, it can be business or personal, but it has been the best investment you've made in yourself?
So I am really a huge fan of mentorship. I've always invested in like courses and mentors pretty much from the beginning, and that isn't something like I even knew existed when I started my boutique, but kind of naturally, like I think I found a podcast, and then I found a membership, and then I found a course, and I did it's called Retail Boot Camp. I don't know if you've heard that one. So that's the first like investment I ever made, and then the coaching industry has really taken off in the last few years. So I think like what I love about mentorship is that you can really collapse time by learning from someone who's done what you've done and has made a lot of mistakes along the way, but you kind of get to like hop over those mistakes by learning from that person. So I would say mentorship, someone that you connect with, someone that you want to learn from, whether that's like an individual skill or just overall mentorship in business. And then I always will say travel too. Like I just think travel is such an expander, and anytime I can invest in travel, I'm doing that too, because it just takes me out of my day to day and expands my mind and helps me to dream and get re-inspired.
So with mentorship, how do you go about like finding somebody? You know what I mean? I'm like, is that like something you Google, or you know what I mean? Obviously, I feel like you could find somebody, you know, like close to home if you know somebody personally that's in town or something like that. But, you know, if you're like thinking you want somebody out, like how do you find something like that?
I am big on social media. Like I love social media for my business and for brand growth, and I kind of have just naturally connected with people. But I was first introduced to mentorship through a network marketing opportunity. So I was in network marketing for, I started that a year into running my store. And I thought it was such a smart business model. And really, like, the thing in network marketing is it's like free mentorship.
Yeah, so you always have somebody above you.
You're learning from someone who's done the thing, found success, and they're teaching you. And so that was kind of like the baby version of me being introduced to mentorship, but kind of like through that and understanding that, then I started to notice coaches online. And that's when I was like, oh, I get this now. Like they're just, it's kind of like the network marketing thing, but there's mentors for all different kinds of businesses. And I found my mentor, she actually was a part of a network marketing company that I have been a part of, just on a totally different area of the world. Like we were not connected in any way in that business, but she kind of had stopped doing what she was doing in network marketing and was going in another direction with some of her businesses. And I just really resonated with everything she shared. She had a lot of like, just a lot of her takes on things were so different from what I was hearing. It was so different from some of the like vague, like, I don't know, advice that we hear.
Like cookie cutter. That I just feel like, well, and that's the thing. So like for the boutiques and stuff, I feel like that is a big industry that has taken off in the last like 4 or 5 years. So I feel like there's a lot of seasoned people that have done that. And you know, you could probably even find somebody here in town, you know, that could possibly be your mentor. But like for the venue and stuff, I'm just like, how do I find, you know, if I wanted a mentor that has done something similar, you know, because again, like I have business coaches that pop up on my Instagram as I'm scrolling on Reels like all the time.
Yeah.
But again, it's the very like cookie cutter, here's the advice, buy this course, yada yada.
Yeah.
And so it's like I would love to be able to like find someone who I can truly connect with, like almost like a friend.
Yeah.
You know, but then maybe who has like some of that higher up advice. So
I would
to
just
look
keep,
into that.
keep exploring. This is gonna sound really woo-woo, but I just think once you're open and you just kind of like declare this out, it's like
Just
I'm
follow
looking for this person, they will come to you. Like
Okay.
you'll find them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I'll be on the lookout.
And now that I know that, if I see a
Yes.
that I feel like
Yeah.
it's a good fit for you.
Okay, please do. Okay, so this next question, I feel like I've kind of asked you this before, and I'm asking it again because I feel like I've evolved a little bit. But what is your view on branding, like personal versus business? So for example, I know a while ago I asked you with the Ari in particular, I felt like my personal brand was like starting to kind of grow, like with my networking events and things like that. And I wasn't sure if I should separate the two. And I know that you mentioned that it was probably better to keep it together because the Ari stands, you know, for the connection, and that is part of the Ari's brand. But now with like the podcast and just some other things, I sometimes feel like is my personal overshining what the business, other aspects of the business is, when somebody's like looking for a baby shower or a bridal shower, like are they gonna come to my page or see the Ari and be like, I'm confused, I don't understand what's happening there.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like, you know, when do you make that separation, or if you ever do, you know, like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Do you guys plan on having a podcast page at all?
So we do have a podcast, TikTok. She created that. Yeah, we have the YouTube and everything. I wasn't sure if, so that was gonna be kind of the thing, was like if I separate my brand off as like my personal brand and I try to share more of the networking things on that, then I would probably post the podcast on there.
Yeah.
But again, now I feel like with the Ari, you're gonna be seeing a lot of like podcasting stuff and networking stuff, and then it's like, oh, okay, and now you can have your bridal shower here too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your business has evolved since we first had this conversation. My perspective is like, I don't know if it's evolved, but maybe shifted a little bit with now starting this new business that I'm starting, because I'm now like creating a second Instagram for that too.
Yeah.
I think like you're just kind of gonna know when it's time. The one thing I want everyone to like take away or just really understand is that like it doesn't matter that much. Like we are so scared of people getting confused or pushing people away or people unfollowing us or people not whatever. If we just follow your intuition and follow what your gut's telling you and like lead with that, you're kind of gonna know when it's time. Because it has evolved. Like at first I think it made total sense to keep it all the same page. If you feel like now you're getting so many different, like you're going in different directions with your passion project of being kind of like a podcast and a personal brand, it might feel better to you to like start showing up more on your regular Shelby account and kind of going in that direction, and then taking this in a bit more of like just the events. But I think always interweaving them is gonna keep that personal touch there.
Absolutely.
I always struggle with like keeping my business page and my personal page on Facebook because I post so many like family photos and just memes and stuff like that on my personal page. And I'm like, is this going to harm my professional page? And I think, like you said, it just makes you look more human and more authentic. It gives people more reasons to resonate with you.
Totally. Like when I walk into a boutique and I can get to know the owner, like I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, people want to get to know you. Like they want to know who's behind the business, especially in today's, like this is different than it used to be, right?
For sure.
Like 10 years ago, it maybe wouldn't have been like that, but people are really craving that connection in a world of like AI.
Yes.
Yeah. If people, like anytime you can be the face and be the voice and be the heart, people are gonna, at the end of the day, like they're gonna like that. Like the people that are meant for you, right? Like,
What are some underrated social media strategies that have helped you build and scale your business?
So I think the most underrated strategy is that there's like no strategy that we have to follow or that we need to be following to get like to find success in our business. It's really just like figuring out who you are and then embodying like your most authentic expression. And so like a way that I do that and have found like I'm so passionate about astrology. That's something that I've been learning about over the last couple of years, and human design as well, if you've ever heard of that. And it's really about like kind of coming home to yourself and getting to know yourself more deeply. So when you can do that and you can like find that like unapologetic version of yourself, then just being who you are authentically is like the most underrated strategy that you can have on social media.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for like the tactical advice. Like what can I do? Like 1 + 1 = 2. Like how can I? And really, it's just being yourself. And what I used to get so frustrated by was when people were like, "Oh, just be yourself," and you're like, "I am. Like I am being myself. What do you mean? Like what does that even mean?" And so astrology is a way that I have found to like really help people to kind of come home to themselves. And we could go so deeply into that, but that is the method that I use to help people really like find their most authentic expression in their brand.
Well, I feel like when people, ask a question too, they want an answer. They want you to tell them, like you said, 1 + 1 = 2. I want you to tell me what time I have to post that's gonna get the most views. Like when are people scrolling? And I know, because I know Time a couple years ago, and maybe it still is, I don't follow that anymore, but it was like, we had a chart at the boutique where it was like, okay, for Instagram, we post at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 7 p.m. And it was like, we didn't stray from that. And I'm like, I don't actually think that really did anything.
The algorithm is always changing, so like what could have been working may not work 3 months later. It's also like if you can't, like if it helps your team to set up a system like that, go for it.
For sure.
It's just like don't be heartbroken like and be like, did anyone look at my post or like what are my views like? It's just like when you just kind of like lead from this like calm nervous system like place in your business and you just post when it feels good to post, like you stay intuitive with it, then it'll
just flow.
All right, Olivia, my next question for you is, I know you have something called the CEO Social brand that you do for businesses. Can you tell us how you help businesses build their brand through that program?
Yeah. So CEO Social is something that I started about a year ago now, and really what I was noticing is that people, like a lot of people were coming to me with questions, kind of like what you were just asking, like when should I post, what should I post, and business owners are so busy. Like the content, the brand building on social media isn't always in our zone of genius. Like we can do it, but it's always not like the best use of our time or best use of our genius. And so I came up with this program. It's called CEO Social, and it's for brand owners, kind of brand owners who have more of an established brand. So they've been investing in their brand in a little bit. They probably have a website. They probably have invested in a copywriter or at least have found their brand voice. And they probably have definitely invested in their brand photos and their videos. It doesn't have to be like professional video at all, but it can just be like iPhone video. And so it's kind of like a hybrid between a done-for-you and a coaching program where I help the brand owner, and I kind of am like their social media manager on Instagram. I create, I edit, I post for them, and I use like their copy and their voice within that. So a lot of people come to me and they're like, I need help building my brand, or like with these questions, kind of like what you were asking, like when is the best time to post? And when I'm leading that program, like I'm really just being intuitive with it. I'm paying attention to your data, of course, like always pay attention to your data and use that as a tool, but it's not something that we have to like really obsess over. And so in CEO Social, like I post for my clients 5 to 7 times a week. We're really focused on Reels. Reels are the growth mechanism on Instagram. So when people are asking me what is the best kind of content to post, I'm always gonna say Reels. That is what gets your brand in front of new eyeballs, and the words that you're using in your content is what is telling the algorithm who to push your content out to. So if you want to be getting in front of new, more aligned eyes for your brand, Reels are the way to do it. And then carousels and static posts are good too, but those are more like speaking to your current audience. And so that's kind of like, those are my tips really for Instagram.
I love that, and I love that you offer an outsource for posting because
Yeah.
we try to do everything ourselves. I know I do, and you will just end up drowning.
Yeah.
Totally.
You have to have help. So
Yeah.
it's a good program.
It keeps me like on my toes because I love working with all different kinds of businesses. I've started like 5 different businesses, so getting to work and like be hands-on with a lot of different businesses has been really fun. I also do coach people, but like you said, like the done for you or done with you and coaching hybrid was a way for me to really actually support people further than just telling them what to do and how to do it. So I do offer coaching as well. They can come to me and we can work together and get kind of like my brain on their brand. But I love CEO Social. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, that's so fun. I did like a very small snippet of that program when you had the mini one in December.
Yes.
And I like felt like I learned like a lot in just like a small amount of time with you. And then it is crazy with like the reels. Ever since you said that, I pay attention now. I go and like look at my insights, and it's crazy that it's always like 70% are like people that don't follow me, that like are who are seeing my reels. So I definitely try to post those more than other posts.
Most people are posting their content for their followers. Like they're outsourcing their power. They're like, what can I post for other people? If you actually just kind of come back to yourself and post for your brand and for you, your content isn't even really being shown to your followers. Like it's shown to like a small percentage of them, and we want to continue to educate and nurture our current audience, but a lot of people think that they need to be posting for their current audience, and what they actually need to be doing is posting for the people that have never been exposed to them before.
Because I mean that's marketing, getting new people, getting new eyes.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of with that, do you believe that every single business needs to be on every platform? Like we were just saying, it's like already so overwhelming sometimes. So I'm like, okay, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have TikTok. Then is it Threads? Threads? Whatever that is. But then you've got Pinterest and you've got all these things, and it's so. Do you feel like every business needs to be on every one of those, or is it just like?
I don't. I think like especially in the beginning when you're just getting started, find the one that works like best for you, that you feel most comfortable with. It's kind of, I guess you could compare it to like, does my business need to be on every street corner in town, like, or on every side of town, right? So it could be like as you expand and as you grow, but in the very beginning, like just start on the platform that you feel most comfortable with, or that you feel like you're getting the best results from, or getting the best connection with an audience from. I love Instagram. It's because I'm most comfortable there. I've been on there since like it launched in 2012 or whatever that was. And it's evolved so much, and I really have only started like going deep onto Instagram in the last probably 5 years, but TikTok is another really good one. I'm not sure what's gonna happen with it, so don't put on it.
No, I love TikTok.
Yeah, I was like, you're so good with TikTok, and I like it. I can post a reel and post it on Instagram, but then to think about posting it on TikTok, like, or making a TikTok, like I don't know why when it's basically the same thing, but it's just I think adding one more thing to my plate. So like I don't do very much on TikTok.
I know how you talked about like being your authentic self, and I feel personally like TikTok is the platform where I can be, because you don't have all these people from high school following you on there, you know what I mean?
All your family,
all your family, friends. It's all strangers, it feels like, so you feel like you can take more risks and open up more. It's just a lot more easy.
I have only really started getting into TikTok since like January, since they were just about to ban it. Like, I guess I should. And it took me a minute to wrap my head around it, because I was so used to Instagram, and like the strategies for Instagram are so much different than TikTok. TikTok, it really is just like being yourself.
Engagement is huge on there. They pay attention to, are you watching videos all the way through? Are you saving? Are you sharing? Engagement's big.
Series on there, like storytelling and doing it in a series. I think there's a lot of things. If you spend some time, it doesn't have to be like one weekend or overnight, but there's a lot of things that are gonna come from TikTok over to Instagram. I mean, they already have, but especially with all the craziness with like, will TikTok get banned or not? Like a lot of what they're doing is gonna start to really heavily come onto Instagram. I think series are like a really good, and that's something I would tell brands to do. It's like, if you can come up with some kind of a series for your brand or your clients, that would be a good thing to take away from TikTok. For sure.
So you have spoken on your social media platforms about finding your power as an entrepreneur. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Yeah, I think it kind of just goes back to that like most authentic expression, and really just like owning who you are and owning, like claiming that in your brand and the way you show up in your brand, like being your most visible, most authentic self.
So with that, I have to do that in my brand. I have a faith-based business.
Okay.
And
Yep.
I'm all about following Jesus. So I have to be bold in that. I cannot be
Yes.
afraid to share scripture or talk about my own testimony, even though my testimony is not pretty. I was an alcoholic because of my mother passing. So I was not a good person. I did a lot of bad things, which don't reflect on my brand today, but they got me there. So I have to be very open with that.
Totally. You know what? Yes, exactly. And it kind of like, so with me, I've been getting really into human design and astrology, and I see these as tools. And I was raised a Christian. I have Christian beliefs as well, but a lot of people don't understand the things I'm talking about, and they like are very quick to like, you know, unfollow or
Push
whatever.
you away, yeah.
Which they gotta do what they gotta do, but for a long time it held me back from actually speaking my truth about like how I feel about tools like astrology and human design and how those really can, like, I believe they're tools from God. Like, I believe God created the stars in the sky and everything for good, for his highest good, right? And so sharing some of those things for me has also taken that boldness of just like really being who I am and not being afraid of people who don't get it or
But then that's like kind of like you were saying, that's how you get your, you know, your true followers, you know, the people who really want to support you and they're there truly for you.
totally, yeah.